manifestation techniques, you want to perhaps know how all these coaches are doing it, how they are achieving success. I'm not one of these people that are going to lie and say to you, yes, it's easy and all of this wonderfulness and really like making it out to be something it isn't. Of course, miracles happen, amazing things happen. I myself have lived a particularly modest life. I'm not the kind of person that was manifesting things like millions and millions of pounds or mansions or anything. It does not interest me. But the things that I have wanted in my life, from health for me and family members, even pets, funny enough, to, like I say, money when I've needed to, a home, car, numerous SPs, various things I've manifested in my life. I've been doing this for pretty much 20 years now. That's when I first started my journey, when I discovered Neville's teachings and then worked my way around. So I'm going to share with you the techniques and the things that I use consistently to manifest successfully. I'm going to share how I do it. I'm going to share why I don't use affirmations personally. I know, shock horror, there's a lot of coaches out there, or 90% of coaches out there, that just want to ram affirmations down everybody's throat. I'm quite the opposite. For me, never use a single affirmation, never ever have done that. And I think it's because of my understanding of hypnosis, learning about how the conscious and unconscious mind work together. So I never really I never really resonated with affirmations. But I'm going to share with you what works for me, why imagination is so key. And we're going to have hopefully some fun with this. So thank you first up for joining me. I'm Athena Raven. I'm a mental health and manifestation life coach, and here to empower you, lose my voice, and inspire you on your manifestation journey, and give you the tools that you need to make this a fun and as easygoing process as possible. I'm sending you guys so much love here. Please do like and subscribe to the content, help this channel to grow. Let's boost the algorithm, get the message out there for other people who could benefit too. And I love and appreciate all of you for being here. You really truly make this just a wonderful, wonderful environment to be in. So thank you so much for your support. Now, it was suggested by someone who was watching my videos prior, was asking me about what affirmations do I use, or what techniques talk more maybe about imagination and inner talking. Now, I have talked in more detail in other videos about how to get your SP to conform, how I've done it with my first SP. I share that story quite a bit. Imagination, why I don't use affirmations, I've done a whole video on that too if you want some more in-depth information. But I'm going to just do a generic sort of general overview here, because you guys are probably feeling quite overwhelmed with the amount of techniques that are out there and the amount of times that you need to be doing these affirmations or doing these 369 methods or doing these scriptings and whatever else you're being taught to do. I'm going to share with you what's worked for me consistently. It's going to be different for a lot of people, but when I found my flow and everything that I have manifested successfully, I used these methods consistently as the basis always. I might have added a couple of other techniques here and there just to try, just to dabble, just to have fun with. But essentially the core techniques that I use every time are these ones that I'm going to share with you. So first up, imagination. I can't stress this enough, guys. Imagination, by the way, don't be put off if you're someone who suffers with aphantasia or something like that. It doesn't mean that you have to visualize, you have to see it with your mind's eye, because not everyone is capable of doing that. I myself have my really, really off days. Maybe some of you guys who have a great vivid imagination, maybe you have your off days as well, where you just sit down, maybe you're too tired, or maybe you're just struggling to focus. You can't see, you can't picture it clearly in your mind. Does not matter. We have other senses at our disposal. So anytime I have wanted to manifest something, be it one of my larger desires, like my home that I'm living in, like the car I'm driving, like the SP relationships or communication I wanted to establish with SPs, whatever it is I wanted with them, I always would imagine the scene of having that desire. Sometimes I was naughty, you know, like I said, I've done this 20 years. And there were times that I imagined maybe the wrong thing, like imagining receiving a text message from them, or imagining that we're having an intimate night together, which again, just didn't suggest that we were in a long-term loving relationship at all. So I imagined the middle, But for other things, I was pretty good in terms of health or in terms of my home or various things like that. I didn't bother messing with the middle. I saw myself in this house. I saw myself with the financial abundance that I needed, or this money that I wanted in my account. I visualized myself driving that car, that little mini convertible. That was always what I wanted. That was a strange story how that came about. My first car had to set on fire before I got this one. Don't even ask. But essentially, the imagination was key in every single thing that I've wanted to manifest. Okay, I can't say every single thing, because of course there were things that I've manifested inadvertently, and I don't recall sitting there doing sats or sitting there and meditating and imagining and subjecting myself to it. No, certain things will happen, which is just an example of the state that you occupy. So on a real subconscious level, if you're occupying a state of, well, what kind of things do you identify with? You know, money doesn't last. I always manage to gain money and then but lose it easily. Or relationships, they just always seem to break down. Partners always either cheat or they leave or they're narcissistic or whatever it might be. So you will encounter these sort of undesirable events where you're just kind of like, hang on, I did not imagine that. I did not foresee that. But essentially for the things that I had desires, I had specific desires for, and I was consciously creating. Imagination was always the key, was always the basis. I would quieten my mind and my senses. I would close off everything to this outside reality. And I just go into this kind of quietness of either just before bed or sometimes after a heavy meal when you're going into that kind of dozy food coma state. And I would just subject myself to having that desire. Go to the end, because I learned my lesson the hard way. And if you, I think I've done a video on this before, but if not, if you guys want to know about why that's so important and to share my experiences and what kind of went wrong with that, then comment below and I'll be happy to share that with you. But go to the end. If you already have that desire now, you know, you've got that desire, you want it, you're thinking of it. Now you want to think from having it, you want to subject yourself to it in first person. So that's when I imagined it. And I did that for all of my major manifestations that came to fruition. And I continue to do that to this day. So that was always something that I would do. I thought it was very effective for subjecting my unconscious mind. In hypnosis as well, I'm using your imagination to elicit change. And I have some incredible results with my clients when I use hypnosis on them. And even if not, even if you're using other modalities of therapy, you're getting them to talk and imagine things in a way, imagine themselves. You're getting them to question things about themselves. So first up, always imagination. Second up, I would script as well. I'm not very consistent with scripting, admittedly. There were some desires like SPs, the things that we get a bit desperate about, that sometimes I would script. I do script for my sort of mini manifestation. I don't like to call them that, but my sort of generic day-to-day manifestations that I might do, bunch of flowers, brilliant parking space. I end up scripting that because I'm writing it down in a list, and maybe I'd write it down again. But scripting in present tense, like you've already received that desire, I would do that as well. Another thing would be paying attention to my inner talking was very, very key. Because if you think about it, essentially what you're doing is you are trying to become the person for which has that desire, for which that desire already belongs. The psychological shift that is necessary for some of these manifestations can sometimes be quite difficult for a lot of us, particularly if you've been programmed a certain way for all of your life. Like, all relationships break down because I saw this happen in my childhood when my parents were divorced, or had one parent that passed away, or had a parent that was emotionally unavailable. Now it's affected all my relationships going forward. And now you're trying to shift to a state where you are abundant and in a truly loving, committed relationship with a specific person, or maybe just in general. That can be quite a big shift. And for me, in the past, modalities of therapy really, really helped me, because I had a lot of insecurities. I was coming from a place of chronic, crippling anxiety and depression. And at my very, very worst, I was agoraphobic. I wouldn't leave the house. I was so sick with this. in my early 20s. Maybe this is why I came across manifestation. I wasn't utilizing it to the fullest. At this point, I was listening and learning and trying to find myself, I suppose, found it a comfort, but would subject myself to these modalities of therapy to enable me to shift state easier without the baggage from the past. This is why I study it myself and use it on my clients, because I know from a personal experience level how helpful this was. Maybe doing an imaginal act on its own is not going to be enough to help you to completely shift state. Maybe scripting on its own is not going to be enough as well. We've got to be consistent with this and really come from a place of believing and feeling like our desire is actually quite natural. It's natural for us to be in this relationship. It's natural for us to be in this wonderful dream home. But it's not necessary per se for everybody. But I'm just putting it out there that that was something else that I had to go through that really enabled me to just cut off the ties and the anchors to the past. And helped with my imaginal acts. And then my inner talking, I would make sure that my inner talking was in harmony. My goodness, I don't know about you, but that inner talking, it just wants to do its own thing. Constantly arguing with SP, or constantly arguing with my boss, or talking about how this person, they ghosted me and blanked me again. They're such a horrible person, and what's their problem, and what's going on with money and everything. It would just run riot. Paying attention to that, being more aware of it and shifting it really helped. It's like repetition is key here, to repeatedly do your imaginal work, to repeatedly change and be aware of your inner talking, and to question my inner beliefs as well. Every time inner anxieties and beliefs would come up, I wouldn't just let it go or suppress it. No, I can't think negatively because I've got to think positively, otherwise I'm going to ruin my manifestation. No, I never gave myself a hard time like that. I know from experience from myself and from my clients who have been successful that a lot of the time they had negative thoughts, anxieties, doubts, breakdowns. But we realign from all of that, question it, challenge it, do that inner work together, and they bring in their desires. We actually didn't even make any, didn't even cause any delay really, because we shift it around quite quickly. So challenge your inner talking, challenge those inner beliefs on a regular basis. Make the go-to more positive rather than just falling back into the negative talk patterns. Why isn't this work? Why isn't this happening? Everything that's lacking in my world, argument. We want to try and change all of that as well. That's why it's so important. The reason I don't use affirmations, never have, is that they never, personally for me, they never resonated with me. When I would say I am loved, I am in a loving relationship with SP, or if I'm suffering with my health, I am healthy, I'm abundant with health. I couldn't embody that. I couldn't believe I'm a rubbish actress. Rubbish. Studied drama and I'm still rubbish at it. But I just couldn't. It just felt fake to me. It felt I felt ridiculous saying it. And because I have an understanding of how the mind works, perhaps I have a bias to this as well, whereby I know, and even Neville has stated as well, sometimes this vain repetition of words actually has an opposing result, a negative effect. If I'm constantly saying to myself, I am with SP, I am in a loving relationship with my specific partner, my conscious mind is there going, no, you're not. The ego mind wants examples, wants evidence. I don't have any evidence, I'm just affirming it. So it is constant battle with the conscious mind, in which case some of you will have noticed that you feel exhausted, you feel tired from doing affirmations, you probably feel quite stressed about it, and it doesn't really change a thing. To me, affirmations on their own are not powerful. We don't use it in modalities of therapy for a reason, unless you're putting yourself into maybe a hypnotic state or a meditative state where you quieten the conscious mind, the critical faculty, you put that aside, and then you can implant it straight into the unconscious mind, put suggestions in that way. Then yeah, that's much more effective than just parroting out words. But this is why I never used affirmations. If you are using affirmations, make sure it's your own words, your own language, not someone else's. Again, that's going to be much harder for you to absorb and adopt. But some people use them and find comfort in them. So clients that I have that say they use them and they find comfort, fine. And the reason why people have success with affirmations as well is majority of the time they're not just affirming, they are also using their imagination or using other techniques. They almost use it as a supplement. It's not your main diet. it's a supplement that you have on the side alongside your imagination or alongside other techniques that you might be utilizing. So dabble with this, experiment with this. That's what I say, because everyone's journey is different. It's not a one size fits all, but that's why I personally never use affirmations. They had the opposite effect for me. They tire me out. I feel fake doing it. It's just not for me. Why, when I have an abundance of techniques that are much more effective for me, that have really, really worked. This is about embodying the state of having it, shifting your psychological state from someone who doesn't have this desire to someone who has it and owns it right now. And words alone, in my opinion, and my understanding of psychology and the work that I've done with people over these years and the thousands of clients that I've had and all of that, to me, it's not enough just to affirm these things. Imagination, challenging those inner talks and beliefs, maybe a bit of scripting as well will help you to these sorts of things. But this is why I personally don't just kind of stick to them. And if any of my clients are struggling with affirmations because they've been taught by another coach to affirm all day, I actually ban them from using affirmations completely. We use loads of other techniques, so many other techniques, abundance of things that we could do to shift up state, to change our beliefs, to help raise our self-confidence, self-worth, to heal that inner child. I've got an abundance of techniques behind me because of all the studies that I have done. So affirmations to me are nothing, and this is why I don't use them. So I hope that this has given you a sort of clear general overview. So the kind of things that I've used, the consistent things that I've used that have helped and worked for me every time. Trust me, there are times still, even for myself, that I have manifestations that perhaps I've never manifested before, that I still get my doubts, that I still take time to shift state. The reason manifestations can take a while for some of us is not necessarily to do with the bridge of incidents being long. A lot of the time it's to do with us and how long it takes us to shift to that state of having, to making that desire natural, giving it this natural feeling, naturalness, where we naturally again let it go, and we live our lives and carry on and start to manifest other desires. That shift can take a bit of time. Even for myself, with all my experience and knowledge, there's been some things that I've still taken, I'm not going to lie to you, 6 months. There was 6 months for me to shift state, because there was other traumas and other things that I had going on as well. The more baggage we have from the past, the more issues we need to address. If that plays into your current manifestation, whatever it is you desire, you will find that anchors you and requires a bit more work. And this is why people get impatient and they give up and they think it's not working for them. It is. But you just got to be so kind to yourself and allow yourself that time, that patience to shift, because you're healing. You're healing and you're grieving because you're killing off your old man, your old story, and you're being reborn. That's not always a smooth process. That can sometimes be a bit lengthy and painful. So have fun with this. Experiment with these techniques. Have a try with the techniques I've offered you here if you like as well. And for those of you who want to use affirmations, use them, if they work for you. And those of you that don't be afraid not to use them. I've manifested everything without affirmations. It's living proof it can be done, So give that a try. Let me know how you get on. And I'm sending you guys loads and loads of love. See you in the next video.